I read this book and Mr. Sugang's quote. In fact, I read this part yesterday, but it is a little difficult to understand. So I read this story again and record my voice, and I will retell the story after read the story. Okay, start. Mr. Skank's goat. Mr. Skank lost all his goat, one after another in the same way. They broke free from their loaf and escaped to the mountain looking for the greener pasture. But the hungry wolf ate them all. They were not loyal to their master and had no fear of the wolf. Nothing could hold them back. The goat wanted their freedom even if it cost them their life. Mr. Skanks was very upset. He couldn't understand why his goat wanted to leave him. I'm done, he said sadly. The goats are bored in my house. I won't keep another one. However, after losing 6 goats, he thought he would try just one more. This time he bought a very young goat. Because she was young, he hoped she would know nothing about the outside world and be content to stay and graze in his meadow. The little goat was very pretty. She had soft brown eyes, shiny black hooves, striped horns, and long white fur. She was affectionate and docile and just as lovely. This little goat didn't move when she was milked, and she never put her food in the bowl. She was a truly lovely goat. Behind Mr. Sugang's house was a large meadow enclosed by hawthorn hedge. It was just right for his new goat. He tethered her to a stake in the best part of the meadow and made sure that she had plenty of rope. From time to time, he went out to see if she was saddled. The goat always seemed to be happily grazing on the grass. Mr. Skank was delighted. Unless, he thought, this goat doesn't appear to be bored living with me. I will call her Blanket. Mr. Skank was wrong. His goat was bored. Was bored. One day, she looked lonely at the mountain and thought, it must be wonderful up there in the fresh air. How lovely it would be to run through the heather without this rope around my neck. Goats like me should be free to wander whenever he want to go. From that day on, she wouldn't eat a grass in her meadow. It's tasteless, she thought. I'm sure the mountain grass is much sweeter and tastier. Very soon, she lost weight and her milk almost dried up. It was sad to see her looking at the mound and trying to break up loaf. And she could often be heard bleating miserably. Mr. Skanson realized that something was wrong with his little goat, but he didn't know what it was. One morning, as Mr. Skank tried to milk her, she turned to him and said, Mr. Skank, I'm longing to go to the mountain. Oh my God, there's one too, cried Mr. Skank. He was shocked and dropped his bowl. Then he sat on the grass beside her. So Blanket, you won't leave me too? He said. Yes, Mr. Skank. She replied. Are you short of glass here? He asked. Or is your love too short? Do you want me to lengthen it? Oh no, Mr. Skank, it's not too short, said the goat. Well, what do you need or want? Asked Mr. Skank. I really want to go up the mountain, said the goat. But, dear Blanket, there is a large wolf living on the mountain. What will you do if he finds you? He asked. I will beat him with my horn, Mr. Skank, replied the goat. The wolf won't be worried about your horn, said Mr. Skank. He was in many goats with bigger horn than yours. Let me tell you about poor old Lonat, who was here last year. She was very strong and fought with the wolf all night, but in the morning the wolf ate her. Oh, Ronald, said Blanket, but that doesn't make any difference to me. I won't change my mind. Mr. Scan, please let me go to the mountain. Goodness me, said Mr. Scan. What am I to do with my goat? Another one wants to be the wolf's next meal. No, I won't allow it. Whether you like it or not, I will save you from such a terrible death. I will lock you in the coal shed so you can't escape. And that is exactly what Mr. Scans did. He led his little goat into the dark coal shed and locked and bolted the door as he left. But he forgot to shut the window. So as soon as he left, Blanket climbed out the window and headed for the mountain. Everyone was delighted when the little goat arrived on the mountain. The old fir tree had never seen anything as lovely. The chestnut tree bent over and struck her with their leaf. The bush of golden broom opened a path for little goat and brushed it against her as she passed by. She was treated like a queen. Blanket was free to do as she wanted and eat whatever she liked. All around her were hundreds of wild flowers scattered among the delicious sweet grass. There were huge blueberries and a whole forest of wild bloom, bursting with sweet nectar. The little goat lolled around under the chestnut tree with her leg in the air. Suddenly she jumped to her feet, and she boldly set off through the clump of boxwood and broom. Up and down the mountain she went, exploring everywhere. Blanket was scared of nothing. She leapt over a wide stream and soaked herself in the mist. Then she stretched out on the flat log to dry in the warm sun. Later the first day, she peered over a steep cliff at Mr. Skank's house. That encloses more, she said to herself. How did I manage to live there? I'm so happy and as free as a bird. Then she laughed and laughed until her tears rolled down her face. The little goat felt like she was on top of the world. So far, it had been a great day for Blanket. Over midday, she met with herd of deers as they were enjoying their lunch of wild vine. The deers were fascinated by the little goat and allowed her to have the best of life. Blanket made friends with one of the younger deer. They spent hours happily wandering through the forest and climbing up and down the rocks. Suddenly, the wind freshened and the mountain turned violet as evening fell. Surely it can be night time yet, said Little Goat. I'm having too much fun. Down in the foggy valley, she could see Mr. Skank's house roof and smoke from the chimney. Blanket began to feel sad when she heard the bells of the flock of sheep returning home. Without warning, a falcon flew over her head. She ducked down, but he almost caught her with his wing. Suddenly, a long and frightened howl echoed around the mountain. Then she heard Mr. Skank's horn sound from the valley below. Come home, cried the horn. Then the wolf howled again. Blanket thought about going home, but then she remembered the rope, the hedge, and clothes. I don't think I could put up with all that again, she thought. After calling her several times, the horn fell silent. All of a sudden, Blanket heard a noise in the bushes behind her. She slowly turned around, and what she saw startled her. In the shade of a large chestnut tree was a huge gray wolf. He sat as still as death and watched her with his two large shining eyes. Blanket started to walk away, but Wolf sneered. Ha ha, I know who you are. You are Mr. Skank's little goat. Then he licked his lip with his long and red tongue. Blanket felt very frightened and alone. She remembered the story of old Leonard, who was eaten by the wolf after bravely fighting all night. But she said to herself, I'm not going to let him have me for his next meal. So Blanket faced the wolf with her head down and her horn ready to fight him. I know goats are not expected to kill a wolf, she thought. I will see if I can last as long as Ronald. And as the wolf moved closer, Blanket charged at him with her horn. What a brave little goat she was! She fought that wolf with all her heart. At last, 1,000 times, she forced the wolf to back up and catch his breath. While he laughed, she ate some of the sweet grass to give her energy. The battle continued all night. From time to time, Blanket looked up the twinkling star in the clear sky. Oh dear, I hope I'm strong enough to last until morning, she thought. One by one, the stars faded away. The daylight began to appear over the horizon. Blanket charged again. Wolf tore at her with his sharp teeth. From a farm down in the valley came the sound of rooster crowing. At last, said the little goat, morning has come. Now I can die bravely. She lay down on the ground, her beautiful white fur stained with blood. The wolf pounced on the little goat and greatly devoured her. This is a story about the goat and wolf. The Mr. Skanks has many goats, but they wanted freedom, so they ran away to the mountain. But after one day, they were eaten by wolf. The wolf ate 6 Mr. Skank's goat, and Mr. Skank very sad. Mr. Skank didn't want it have a goat anymore, but at last she decided to have one goat. He took a very young goat, and the young goat is very beautiful and lovely goat. And Mr. Skank thought this goat is named Blanket. This Blanket didn't want to run away, so Mr. Skank was very happy. But this goat wanted to run away to the mountain, and one day this goat asked Mr. Skank to go to the mountain. But Mr. Skank don't agree the opinion. After night, Mr. Skank didn't remember the close the window, so this Mr. Skank ran away through the window, and all the one days he played in the mountain, eating a fresh grass and playing with the deer. But in the evening, the hawk almost caught him with his wing, but it is very dangerous. It was very dangerous. At night, a great wolf appeared, and he decided to grab this goat. But Blanket decided to fight with wolf, and they fight all night. But in the morning, Blanket thought it is time to end, and he gave up to fight, and this wolf ate this little goat. It is the story of Mr. Skank's goat, and it's very stupid goat. If I was this goat, I would be in the Mr. Skank's house. It is very safe and not dangerous. But out of house, it's very dangerous. But this stupid Mr. Scanscoat didn't know that. Anyway, I this story again. I read this story again today, and I understand the story very well. So if I can't understand story when I read the book, I will read the story again. I will read the story again. Okay. Today is the Wednesday and is the third times my English lesson, and I will practice English very more after, and I will decide to practice my English for 1 year. After 6 months, I will be good at English very well. I love it. I love to that. Okay, bye.